Hundreds of millions of lives impacted.
Look at the wind howling through here.
Tens of thousands of live reports where the weather is happening.
Yeah, this is extreme.
Thousands of storms forecasted. 40 years of storytelling. 22 specialized and advanced field degrees. 7 innovative weather presentation patents. And a former National Hurricane Center director. One trusted best-in-class expert team. America's most trusted news network, the Weather Channel.
Welcome back to Storm Center. We are continuing to track Hurricane Hilary, which is a very powerful Category 2 storm, almost a major hurricane. We're off by 1 mile per hour. We will get a new advisory coming in here by the top of the hour. When that comes in, we will bring that to you. The forecast is bringing this up Baja California, or very near it, and on up into the southwestern United States. Big cities, places like Los Angeles, San Diego, into Reno are in that cone of uncertainty. So I want to bring in meteorologists Chris Warren and Chris Bruin, talk more about some of these impacts we can get. And the forecast track of this really could be damaging in many areas, especially when it comes to flooding.
Yeah, so let's get a look at Hurricane Hilary right now as it's in its strengthening phase. It's, just originated a little early yesterday. And now we've got on the borderline of a major hurricane. Category 2. Look at it here from the visible satellite. That is the eye of Hilary. And look at the cloud tops there continuing to shoot up, meaning explosive growth.
Tropical storm yesterday, 24 hours later. I mean, that's like a sleep and a half. I mean, you take a long nap and boom, there's a hurricane, a strong hurricane. And it's expected to get even stronger. Also, look at how big it is.
It's
huge.
So
this is the main business part of it.
Yep.
And outside of it, though, is a lot of moisture. So eventually, a lot of this, even if the winds aren't strong with it, this is what potentially could get into the mountains, get extra rain out of this. Lot of tropical moisture heading north, heading to the west coast.
There was a blow-up of thunderstorms, too, well hundreds of miles away from, the core of Hilary, and it's all associated with that tropical moisture. So there's the track, and I mean that if you were to overlay the if you were to overlay the cloud field and the moisture source, I mean you're going to see impacts all the way. There will be a sharp cutoff, drastic line on where the edge of the heavier rain is and where we don't get much at all, but it's going to be well outside the cone.
I mean, wherever the center is, it could span a couple to few or even several hundred miles across. I mean, that's the potential with this thing.
And then, I mean, goodness, so many places are going to see impacts here. The details still got to work out for your specific neighborhood, but if you live in California, if you have travel plans to California, parts of Arizona and Nevada, you need to monitor the forecast closely this weekend.
So the GFS and the European in pretty
decent agreement until late Saturday, right? A strong storm, strong hurricane still.
Yeah.
Due west of Cabo, just about due west. A lot of rain with it, a lot of wind.
But then there's some divergence in the model, so a little bit of different path with these. This path, the GFS, takes it right up to LA.
Yeah, so possible landfall in California, and this would be kind of the worst situation for San Diego, Los Angeles. With heavy rainfall, you would have upslope on the mountain, so you would get heavy rain in the San Bernardino Mountains and over towards Ventura County, and then maybe not as much out towards some of the desert areas.
You said the word landfall. So at that point, the center could be a tropical depression, possibly a tropical storm, or remnants of much weaker. But the rain is going to be a big issue, even if it takes a weaker route, a wind weak route, still strong rain threat.
Yeah, European wants to, and that's what we're showing right here. So European shows a much weaker storm, right? It's also much quicker moving, but moves in, say, into Baja California and moves up the spine of the mountains. So
the
rainfall,
GFS, they're not too different.
No, heavy rain. The confidence is growing for that rain threat.
All right, we are seeing some rain right now across the contiguous 48 or the lower 48 or the mainland, whatever you want to call it. We're focusing on what's happening right now where the showers and storms are. Jackie, that's what you've been doing all evening.
Yeah, sure have. A lot of the rain action today, some of it's been into the west, especially into Utah, where we've had some flash flood warnings, but we've also had a lot going on in the state of Florida and then into the Great Lakes region as we're tracking a storm system up there. Want to start out in Florida right now because you folks folks have been getting a lot of heavy rain. Heavy downpours leading to very slow-moving storms could provide a little bit of flooding across this area. We've had a couple of flood alerts, no big warnings this afternoon or evening, but it's a trend that we're keeping our eye on as storms are slow going. Now up here across the Great Lakes and Ohio Valley, there may be a few severe thunderstorms. We've had a few warnings here or there, primarily back into Indiana. Those have been allowed to expire, but look at this solid line here from Cleveland stretching all the way up to the north shore of Lake Huron. This is going to be plowing through Toronto a little bit later on. We do have some thunderstorms working their way into the Detroit metro area right now. Sub-severe, but there's lightning and heavy rain, so make sure you stay indoors there. Columbus, you're about to get some heavier rain. Mansfield up towards Cleveland, it's just lighter rain for you at the moment. And this all works its way towards Pittsburgh, say Albany, even New York City by the morning.
Well, welcome back into Storm Center. We're closely monitoring the latest here, tracking Hurricane Hilary as it continues to push up through the eastern Pacific off the coast of Mexico, strengthening as it has a lot of warm water right now. Notice, though, as we get into Saturday, it starts to push farther north and we start to see weakening because the water temperatures cool off drastically. So that will certainly weaken it, even though if you hear a Category 4 hurricane, note that that's Hilary, but it won't stay that way. Impacts, though, are going to be detrimental to some parts of California, Nevada, possibly the desert Southwest and north of there as we go into Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday of next week. Jacqui?
All right, thanks, Chris. We want to get back to Hawaii and check in with our meteorologist, Reynolds Wolf. He is in Maui right now, but has been unable to get communication very well close to the fire scar area. Reynolds, what's the latest where you are and how are conditions?
The latest that where we are right now is it's still a work in progress. It's understandable when you consider the tragedy that has befallen this American community that it's, again, so many of us have a connection with our hearts and our souls. But I can tell you it is just one step it's a slow progress, but each day gets a little bit better and a little bit better. And some of it comes in the form of just people from all over the United States that are converging on these points to help out best that they possibly can. Now, at our vantage point, Lahaina is right up the coastline, some about 8 or 9 miles. The reason why we're at this location is because you've got so many people that are in Lahaina at this hour. It's very hard to use, very difficult to use cell coverage at this time. Cell coverage is very sparse for the time being, but we expect that to improve also going forward in time. You know, when you think about the Hawaiian Islands, there are a lot of them, 132 in fact, but there are 9 that we tend to know best. Well, obviously Maui is one of them, but not all the islands are exactly the same. They're very much like people in that they all have different personalities, characteristics, so to speak. And I will tell you that this island, Maui, is very different from others. Say, for example, Kauai. Kauai is a very damp island. It's where you have a lot of rainforest. You've got Waimea Canyon, the Nepali coastline. Intense rainfall. This is an area that tends to be a bit drier. However, the drought we've had here has been just exceptional in a very, very bad way, obviously. We expect the fortunes to change in a tremendous way, potentially, over the next several days and through the weekend as more rain is forecast to move through. We truly do need, again, more of the moisture in this part of the world, but even that is not going to be the perfect remedy for this situation. The people that are here, I can tell you, are very, very frustrated in a sense. We spoke with a great lady earlier today. Her name is Monique. She has lived in the Lahaina area for about 34 years. She's originally from France, and she was at a point where she was up on a hillside at a checkpoint, and she was not allowed to go down to her home because they are still searching through a lot of the areas that are no more at this point. And although she could not see her house, she could see the structure right next to it. And she is led to believe that her home is gone at this point. And so
there's a lot of sadness, a lot of frustration of not what people know, but what they don't know.
And there are a lot of unknowns for her. So certainly some very, very difficult times, no doubt. But that is the situation. Each day gets a little better for some people, but still remember, in terms of the death toll, it's about 111. The area that has been searched is about 40%, so they still have a ways to go, and there's tremendous fear that there will be, we'll learn about more loss of life. But this was something that, again, struck during the early morning hours. You've seen the video. You know the harrowing tales that people did, trying to do the best they could to avoid the flames. And again, so many people with broken hearts. We have got right behind us, you may be able to hear every now and then a car racing by. That is Highway 30. Highway 30 basically goes right up the west coast of Maui, and it has been a conduit that's been incredibly busy for much of the day. You'll have people that are bringing in a variety of supplies. You also have a lot of people that are very curious. It happens to be their home, but again, they're messed with the frustration that I told you about in the case of Monique, not being able to see the condition of what they call home. So it's very difficult. Right now, you'll also notice that with the islands off in the distance, the water is actually quite sedate. Very important, because many of the supplies do not arrive by air, but they go from boat, from island to island. And they have a process of when you take those boats, you take those supplies, they go into dock, they have to be loaded on cars, on trucks, then they're taken to many places. We've seen many of them not just in Lahaina, but also a bit more to the north, some locations a bit more to the south, and people are distributing these supplies. And it's a little bit of everything. It goes from, well, you'll have areas where people can get supplies for, well, the baby. You can have diapers, you can have formula, you can have food for yourself, food for your cat, advice. Insurance companies are setting up. So it really is like small cities that are popping up in places, spots that, well, again, were unscathed from the flames. And that's also an interesting aspect that you'll find here, is places that have just been laid to waste by the incredible inferno that came through. But then you'll go, say, a half mile in one direction or the other, and it's as though it has always been. But this is a place that has been changed in a tremendous way, and a lot of heavy hearts. And if you happen to be the praying type, please pray for people here. And if you want to send good vibes to that, they'll accept both. Okay, leaving you the great shot that we have here. Sun high over Maui.
Breaking right now, new information from the National Hurricane Center. Hurricane Hilary now a Category 3 hurricane. That is a major hurricane. It's up now 10 miles an hour. It is now 120 mile per hour, Category 3 major Hurricane Hilary. It is moving to the west-northwest, still at 14 miles an hour, still on a path that takes it up to the west coast of the United States. Along the way, Baja. And by Saturday afternoon, 130 mile per hour winds would make it a Category 4. Wow, 140 is the forecast, just seeing this now, for tomorrow afternoon. So a Category 4 by tomorrow afternoon is now the forecast. Again, it is a Category 3 right now, a major hurricane. And as a reminder, only goes up to Category 5. And tomorrow the forecast does have it at a Category 4 hurricane. And a tropical threat on the west coast is extremely rare, seeing a cone like that. In fact, this is the first time Los Angeles has been in the forecast cone since the Hurricane Center started using the cone in 2002. For some insight on that and what's behind this rare tropical threat, let's go to storm specialist Carl Parker.
It is not a common occurrence to get a tropical cyclone in Southern California, and that has everything to do with what's going on with ocean temperatures off of California. This time of the year, water temperatures are in the 60s, not nearly warm enough to maintain a tropical cyclone with that colder water coming down along the coast. However, it's much, much warmer farther south along the west coast of Mexico. So if you get a really strong storm that comes up along the west coast of Mexico and then is pulled northward, it can very easily be that even though it's weakening, it's still strong enough to produce wind and heavy rain. But again, it's not a common occurrence. And in fact, the only time that we have seen hurricane force winds in Southern California in recorded history is going back 165 years, 1858, when a hurricane was just offshore relative to San Diego, and it did cause a fair amount of wind damage. Now, what's amazing about this is that at the time there were only about 4,300 people in San Diego County. And in fact, when you look at a photograph of downtown Los Angeles from 11 years later, 1869, look at that. That is downtown Los Angeles. And obviously things have changed dramatically. It is one of the largest metro areas in the country. About 20 million people live there. So if we saw a similar storm today, it would likely cause hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. Now, the thing that has us worried going forward is that water temperatures are getting warmer every year, which means it's more possible for storms to stay strong as they move up and along the coast. And so we may see more of a threat from heavy rain and even some wind coming into Southern California in coming years. Back to you.
All right, Carl, thanks so much. I want to talk a little bit more about what we can expect going forward with Hilary. If you just missed it before Carl's presentation there, Hilary is now a major hurricane. So that's a Cat 3. Winds 120 miles per hour. This is a powerful beast of a storm, and it's really big, guys, too. And that has far-reaching impacts we can expect.
You know, the stronger this gets, it takes time for it to slow down. It will slow down, but again, this is speeding up in intensity more quickly than the forecast was calling for yesterday.
It's happened fast.
Right, and on that point, Chris, sometimes I tried, you know, it's not the best analogy, but you think about the warm waters into the cold waters. You think about the bike on the pathway along the beach going off into the sand, it slows you down. Yeah. Right? So that would be like, you know, a tropical storm. Now let's take a truck or a golf cart on the same path going off into the beach, right, from concrete to that. It slows down, but it's going to go farther.
It's going to go farther.
A little bit more momentum, a little bit, you know, more of a more force going forward. And there you go. Well, quickly that went from hopefully that was just
from
the graphic.
From a 3 to a 2. Yeah, I mean, it's still over Baja California. It's got it just offshore, right? But what's steering this thing and why this is pulling on up towards the north has to do with an upper low that's offshore right now, and also that heat dome from you know the central U.S. that's going to be shifting eastward, and that draws it farther north.
Look at the contrast. One side of Baja California to the other.
Yeah, the Gulf of California
right
is
there. Pretty warm.
It's shallow too.
How hot is that?
Yeah, hot.
But with cooler water further north, that will help to ensure some of that weakening, but the moisture content is going to be there. We could be talking about a half of a foot of rainfall or more in some of these areas. In areas that only get 2 to 5 inches of rain for the year. It's huge. Yeah, we also don't want to forget about the Gulf. We got a shot here. There's actually a little disturbance over near the Caribbean that will be pulling in through here the next couple of days. Welcome back to Storm Center. Before we let you go tonight, we want to update you one more time on the radar and the forecast. Still have some pretty widespread showers and thunderstorms going on across the Florida Peninsula. These storms are producing some really heavy rainfall. We're especially seeing that on the southwestern coast at the moment. Now, we're also tracking a storm system that's working across the Great Lakes, and this is heading into the northeast. We have a couple of spotty showers and thunder showers out ahead of the main line, but this is going to be the one to track, and then a little development back behind it. expected. These storms just went through Detroit. We've got wet weather moving through Cleveland. Not severe, but notice the lightning beginning to build, especially farther south over towards Akron. Now, Columbus, Ohio, getting ready to get hit with showers and thunderstorms at the moment. And this is all going to be continuing to track off towards the east. Damaging wind, the most likely form of severe weather, maybe some marginally severe hail. But these storms will continue overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning, and could be a rough early commute for folks along I-95, including places like New York City, heavier rain up towards Albany, even into Burlington, Vermont. And of course, we just got a new update in on Hurricane Hilary. It is now a major hurricane in the eastern Pacific, maximum winds of 120 miles per hour. It's going to be heading on up towards Baja California, places like San Diego, Los Angeles, Reno, even Bend, Oregon, all in the cone.